Food and drink play a really big role in terms of defining culture, and oftentimes many social engagements or social interactions involve food and drink. And so it makes sense that now that I am following a diet that looks different from the majority of people around me, it is impacting my social life and the way I can engage in social situations in kind of a big way. This has been kind of a challenging element of switching over to following the medical ketogenic diet, and it's something that I think is important to share more about and to talk about, and also to share with you ways that I'm working to address this so that it's not such a big problem. So I'm going to break down exactly how this change in my diet and this medical intervention can be or is impacting my social life, but maybe it's important to share what it kind of looked like before using this diet. And I think it's probably important to point out that it did change following the pandemic, and that also affected things. But generally speaking, Rob and I, our family, would get together with friends occasionally, or family, go over and share a meal, or sometimes meet friends for drinks or food out. And yeah, again, kind of always there was that food and drink element to those kinds of planned social interactions. There was still, going for runs with run groups, but oftentimes a bonding element after that would be going out for lunch or something after that run too. So there was always kind of that food and drink component to these social situations. And now that we are having to follow a more regimented or, again, different diet than what is commonly accepted within the culture that we live in, it has been a lot more difficult to figure out how we can still have these social interactions while not really engaging in that food and drink component. And I think the way it is kind of played out is to just kind of avoid them, or to not seek them out as intentionally, because we know that that's going to be a challenging element to navigate. So in the last 6 months, I haven't really gone out to meet friends for drinks or food or anything, because there's just nothing that I can really have out in a restaurant other than, water. Maybe there's like some food that I can eat, but I think so oftentimes in restaurants where I live anyway, there's a lot of carbs served as well, and it's kind of hard to get around that. And so I think I've just been kind of avoiding it, and thus it has kind of been having an effect on how often I see my friends and family. Sometimes we have our family over for food to eat, for dinner or whatever, or our family will invite us over, but that has also created its own kind of problems where either if someone invites us over, they kind of have to create a whole nother meal for us, or if we have people over, we have to create a whole nother meal for them. And it is fine. There's room to do that, but it has become a little bit difficult to navigate. And there have been kind of consequences of this where one family member who we used to have over for dinner quite often, we served her some of our keto meals once or twice. And I think it kind of scared her off, and she never really comes over to eat anymore. She'll eat before she comes over, or she'll plan her visits at our house not around meal times. And I think that kind of affects your ability to connect with people when this sort of stuff starts playing out. And beyond this, I've kind of found myself just in general avoiding situations where I'm going to have to figure out food and what to eat or what that's going to look like. Going out of the house during meal times or for any prolonged period of time feels like kind of a big task in terms of having to plan out or bring food with me so that I have something to eat, because again, so many options in restaurants or what's available out and about is quite carb heavy, and thus would not really meet the needs that I have with this diet. And then in terms of the social element, it feels kind of rude to always just be saying, "Oh no, sorry, I'm good. I don't want any of what you're offering me." We were at a birthday party of one of Teddy, our 3-year-old son's friends. And their parents were offering us all these goodies, and we just kept having to say, "Oh no, thank you." And it wasn't really like, I didn't really know these people well. They're his friend from daycare. And so I hadn't met the parents very often other than just a passing hi with drop off or pickup. And so it didn't really feel like an environment where I could explain, oh, I'm following a special diet to treat my schizoaffective disorder. That just didn't really feel like something I was comfortable disclosing. And so I felt like I was just kind of coming off as rude by saying no to all of their offers of food. And so that can feel uncomfortable in social situations, and also, again, probably drives a bit of a wedge in terms of connecting with other people. And while in situations like this, maybe they didn't necessarily exactly interpret my refusal of their food offers as me being rude, but, inevitably sharing in the experience of food and drink is kind of a bonding experience for people. And it's, kind of an important element of social development and social engagement between people. And so, again, not being able to share in meals or share in the experience of enjoying food or drink can have a bit of an isolating effect. We came up with a silly little commitment to our kids this summer where we've committed to buying ice cream every time the ice cream truck goes by our house this summer. And that's been a fun, little thing to do with them. But there is an element of Rob and I not being able to fully share in that experience with them in terms of having ice cream with them from the ice cream truck. And it's just kind of little elements like that that sometimes feel like it's creating a little bit of a divide between you and your loved ones. Also, we do try to eat at the same time with them and still sit down for meals and stuff. But, there is still, again, a bit of a divide in terms of not sharing in and enjoying the same meal and being able to bond over that experience. Rob and I also just don't really go out on dates very much anymore because there is that kind of fear of having to navigate food and drink outside of the house, which so often is what a lot of dates kind of entail or revolve around. And so eliminating that easy option to go and connect over a meal or over drinks out of the home has kind of led to having less intentional date time with each other. And again, has kind of reduced that bonding time. And so those are kind of the direct challenges or impacts following a different diet to what most people around us are following has entailed, or the challenges that it's created. But there is kind of another element at play in terms of how it's affected our relationships with other people. And that's kind of around perhaps room for there to be judgment or a sense of judgment, I guess, whereby there's a lot of people who don't really understand why we're doing this. And they don't really understand that it's a medical intervention that we're following. And, there's so much conflicting information out there that we're all kind of inundated with about what is healthy, what we should be eating. And it does all feel hard to sift through and conflicting. And that's kind of something else that I've really realized throughout this project is that people have really strong beliefs about food and about diet and whatnot. And there's a lot of interesting emotions at play with that too. And so when you start talking about it or exploring or sharing what you're choosing to do with other people, there are often feelings that come about as a result of that. And I think that sometimes there is an element of people in our life judging our decisions, or even maybe feeling like we're judging their decisions because we're deciding to follow this and maybe thinking that it's better than the way they're eating or whatever. And I just want to say that's not the case. Like, I am choosing this because it is the best option for me. And I think empowering people to make that choice is important. So if we just end the discussion there, that all sounds really difficult. But I do think that there is a lot of room to work around this or to work on this. And so I'm going to share with you some of the things that we're doing to try to counteract this difficulty and still engage in social interactions that are ultimately fulfilling and enriching for us. So around having people over for dinner or a meal or whatever, or going over to other people's houses, what we've been trying to do is prepare our own food and bring our own food for us over to other people's houses so that they don't have to worry about adhering to our diet in terms of the food that they're serving us, so that there is still that option to sit down and share a meal together without the added pressure of having to cater to our dietary restrictions. And likewise, when we have people over, we try to create a meal that is more in line with how they eat. So having carby options or whatever it may be, so that they feel comfortable eating in our space as well, and we can still share that meal together. Also, sharing more information with friends and family, or providing a bit of education as to why I'm doing this diet and why it is so helpful for me, and that it is a medical intervention that is really, really impacting my life in a positive way. And that is why I'm going about it. And in doing that, or in choosing that for me, I'm not pushing that onto other people or expecting them to change their diets in the same ways too. It's really a decision that I'm making, and I don't expect the people around me to follow it as well, other than Rob, making him do it. And you know what? We are going to follow this up with a video with Rob explaining why it's been of benefit to him too, for all those people out there who think that I'm dragging Rob through this. Also, on the topic of Rob, we are trying to be more intentional, or carve out more intentional time to connect on dates or whatever it may be that maybe don't have to necessarily involve food or drink, and finding other ways to maybe still get out of the house and connect with each other in a different environment that doesn't need to be stressful and trying to navigate food and drink. Over the last couple of months, we've actually gone to a few concerts or, musical performances and whatnot. And at first there was an element of, oh, this would be really nice to, enjoy a glass of wine or whatever while watching this, because that's what we usually did beforehand. But we realized that, we can get decaf coffees, and that's also really lovely to sit and take in a musical performance with that. And so, there are definitely ways around it, and still ways to enjoy these social engagements, social interactions, without having to worry too much or focus on the things you're missing out on. We're also trying to find ways that we can still share in experiences with people like our kids. So, I shared that we have this ice cream truck project on the go this summer, and Rob and I found these keto ice cream bars at this keto specialty store. And so we saved them, and when the ice cream truck came by and we bought our kids ice cream, we had the keto ice cream bars to share with them too. So there are ways to still find, wraparound ways to still share in an experience with your loved ones. I think that we do still need to try a little bit harder at finding ways to still connect with friends, because that is probably something that has fallen to the wayside a little bit more. But, Rob just went out for brunch with some friends the other day, and it was fine. He was able to navigate it. He ordered eggs, bacon, I think tomatoes, and coffee, and totally acceptable. And so I think that for a while we were just really, really scared about being really strict with knowing everything we were consuming and stuff. And so situations like that felt a lot more daunting and scary. But I think we're probably moving into a space now where we can try to loosen up a little bit and explore those situations while still maintaining the medical treatment that we're following. So to kind of wrap things up, yes, following the medical ketogenic diet has impacted our social life and how we connect with friends and family. And I think it's important to be honest that is a challenge. But, it is possible to overcome. And yes, it has taken us a little bit of time to kind of find our footing in this realm, but we are starting to figure out how to make it work. And it's absolutely possible to make it work. So thank you so much for watching this video. If you have any tips or tricks that you use to navigate social situations while following a different kind of diet like medical keto, I would love to hear from you in the comments below. Thanks again for watching. And as always, wishing you and your loved ones good health. We'll see you in the next video. Bye.